Persona 5 Royal is known for being one of the best JRPGs in recent years, so as someone who loves JRPGs, why not try to beat it while using the first enemy you come across in-game, Pyro Jack, or Jack-o'-lantern, but he'll always be Pyro Jack to me. Also, I decided to have a like goal for this video. If we can hit 100 likes, I'll do a video where I beat SMT5 Vengeance on Godborn mode, aka the hardest mode in the game. So now, with that all being said, the game starts off with me waking up in jail, where I'm forced to recount the events that led up to my arrest. So with that, I tell my side of the story, starting back in April when I first arrived and got settled into my new home in an attic of a cafe. I also relived the events that caused my prior arrest that caused me to move here. After this, I get transported into the Velvet Room, where I meet Igor. The next day, I go and meet my new homeroom teacher at my new school, so that I have everything ready for tomorrow. Speaking about tomorrow, this is where I meet Ryuji, and the both of us head to school together, except now the school is a castle, and we get locked up in a dungeon for trespassing. Finally, we get to meet the owner of the castle, the high school gym teacher Kamoshida, and before he can execute Ryuji, I awaken to my persona, Arsene, and start my first battle against the Pyro Jacks. But because I don't have a Pyro Jack as my persona, all I can do is attack them with Joker. And after that, me and Ryuji escape the cell, and we meet another persona user, Morgana. And you know what? I actually like Morgana. I mean, he's a cat. That's really the only reason. I just like cats. Anyway, now of him helping out, Ryuji and I leave the castle and continue on to school. After the day is over, me and Ryuji decide to go back to the castle tomorrow to uncover some of the rumors going on around Kamoshida. And as it turns out, Kamoshida is actually hitting the students. So after gathering enough evidence, we decide to call it a day. That's when Kamoshida's shadow ambushes us. And here, we learn that Ryuji was also a victim of Kamoshida. And now with our lives on the line, he awakens to his new persona, Captain Kidd. Now it's time for the first mini-boss of this game, Eligor. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, he starts off by summoning two Bicorn, which are weak to Ryuji's electric attacks. So I'm able to stack attacks with him, but I get unlucky with my first fight, with Ryuji getting knocked out, followed up by Morgana, and then Joker. My next attempt goes better, with Ryuji dodging an enemy attack, so Morgana can finish off Eligor with Garu for the win. After we escape from the castle, I start to chariot social link with Ryuji, and now, unlike Personas 3 and 4, social links actually give you more benefits than just fusing personas, like being able to buy things at discounted prices and other stuff, so I'll be doing a lot more of them in this game. The next day, me and Ryuji try to get more information about Kamoshida's mistreatment from the students we saw within the palace, and after talking to all the students, one name became the common denominator, Mishima, but he refuses to talk, so with that, we have no evidence. So with no other options, we meet up with Morgana, and he tells us we can make Kamoshida confess to all his crimes by his own mouth, by stealing his treasure within the metaverse. But that could kill him, so we decide it's a no-go for now. Then, on my way back to the cafe, I run into this girl Kamoshida picked up in his car, and it turns out she's been doing some, explicit favors for Kamoshida to keep her best friend on the starting lineup for the volleyball team. Then the next day her best friend does this, so now I think we have enough information to confront Kamoshida, but instead we get expelled. So now with our backs against the wall, all we can really do is change his heart and make him confess. Also now, in the palace, I unlock the ability to recruit new personas, so now I can officially start my challenge by recruiting Pyro Jack. Also An breaks into the palace, so it's up to us to save her, but instead she awakens to her persona, and now with her on the team, we fight the next mini-boss, Belphegor. On the bright side, he's weak to Agi, a move that both An and Joker have, but he also has Magaru, a move that Ryuji and Joker are weak to. So, running it back, I heal up Joker before he uses Magaru, which only takes out Morgana, and then with An and Joker, I hit his weakness, only to luck out again with Belphegor landing a Garu on the only person not weak to it. So with one more Zio from Ryuji, the Prince of Sloth goes down, and after leaving the palace, I start two new social links, the Lover's Arcana with An, and the Magician Arcana with Morgana, which, like the Full Arcana, automatically goes up over time, so I don't need to worry about it. Now with a full team, it's finally time to take Kamoshida's Disordered Desires. Now I won't be going over every little detail about the infiltration, but I will be going over the mini-bosses, like for example, Archangel. Now Archangel starts off with a charge, boosting his attack, but then he'll go for cleave, and then finally he'll compose himself, and he'll do this for the rest of the battle. So in order to counter this, you need to guard after he charges so no one faints, Well, unless you're Morgana who has low health, but other than that casualty, the fight's pretty easy. He does resist fire, but I have the breeze ring on Joker so he can use Garu for more damage. I also grabbed the first will seed after this, and with all three, I get a pretty good item. So I'll be going after all the will seeds in every palace. And soon after grabbing the first one, I grabbed the second one, and now in order to grab the third one, I need to defeat Mara in its, I don't know, its tip form. Now, I thought the Mara fight would be a lot harder, no pun intended, but thanks to Pyrojack for having Rakunda to lower its defense, as well as Dazzler to confuse it, I can land technical hits on it. Speaking of technical hits, they'll definitely be exploited in this run. Also, Mara will occasionally stare at Anne, because haha big green penis monster. But with one more technical hit from Morgana, I defeat the King of Earthly Desires and get the last will seed. Now with all of them combined, I get the Crystal of Lust, so I can equip it and use Diorama in battle. Finally, the last two mini-bosses are both Eligors that you need to defeat in order to get the keys to the treasure room, but they're way easier than the Eligor you fought with Ryuji. Mainly now because they're weak to electric attacks, as well as I now have Dazzler so I can land technical hits on them. Now with a route to the treasure uncovered, we send out a calling card to make the treasure appear. Now all we have to do is defeat Shadow Kamoshida for that treasure. Shadow Kamoshida starts off with Volleyball Assault, a move that hits 1 to 3 times each turn. Then after a small chunk of damage is dealt to him, he'll use Libido Boost to fully heal himself. So in order to stop him from doing that, I target the golden cup that heals him. Then he'll go for Lustful Slurp, where he has this weird T-posing On model in his mouth that boosts his attack, and then he lands Golden Knife on On, knocking her out. But after reviving her, I take out the cup so Kamoshida can no longer heal himself. After this, he'll bring out a Cognitive Mishima to do a Golden Metal Spike, so in order to not get knocked out, I guard with the whole team. Then he'll bring out Shiho to help him out with his next Gold Metal Spike. So in order to stop this from happening, I target the fake Shiho, who is weak to everything, and knock her out. Now here's where everything went downhill. Normally you're meant to send out Morgana or Ryuji to steal the crown from Kamoshida, ending the fight. But if you fail to deal enough damage to him, he'll notice one of your teammates is missing and you'll be back to square one. And of course, Morgana gets caught, but that's not the main problem. The main problem is that both Joker and On run out of SP, so I can no longer heal, leading to Joker getting knocked out, causing me to start the whole battle all over again. So running it back, the same thing happens as before. Morgana gets caught, and Joker and On are running out of SP. So I send out Ryuji to grab the crown instead because I need Morgana to heal. But of course, Ryuji gets caught, and I'm back to square one. But now, Kamoshida's at such low health at this point, from Joker and On just using their basic weapons to attack, and lucky for me, with one more Garu from Morgana, it was enough to finish him off. And after this, the Shadow Kamoshida gives up, and we escape the palace. Now, the only thing left to do is wait until Kamoshida has a change of heart. During this time, I work on Ryuji's social link, mainly because rank 7 with him will make grinding go by much faster. Speaking of social links, I start the Death social link with Takemi, and I start the Hierophant social link with Sojiro. And other than that, I try to raise my stats in that process as well as I work out in my room to increase my hit points. Then, on the 2nd of May, Kamoshida confesses to all of his crimes. After that, we decide to celebrate with the money we got from Kamoshida's medal, as we decide to keep stealing hearts as the Phantom Thieves. After this, I start one of the best social links in the game. Not just because the XP bonus is good, but it's one of my favorite social link stories in the whole entire series, the Moon Arcana with Mishima. After that, Morgana takes us to Mementos, aka Everyone's Palace. And here's where we can train up for bigger palaces by challenging the hearts of small fries like Nakanohara, who turns into an Obarion who we have to battle. Obarion only uses Sledgehammer, which has the chance to dizzy someone for a technical hit, which is what happens to Morgana. But with Joker lowering its defense and On lowering its attack, with the occasional Dazzler from Joker, I'm able to finish it off with an Augie thanks to Pyrojack. But before Nakanohara has a change of heart, he asks us to target a guy named Madarame. But because we don't have enough information on this guy, we put it on the back burner for now. We also meet Jose, and he'll become more important later on. But for now, he can turn my Crystal of Lust into the Ring of Lust, now allowing me to heal as well as to boost that same person's attack. Then on the 13th, I start the Counselor social link with a new high school guidance counselor, Dr. Maruki, mainly because it's important to the story, as well as it gives Joker detox, so I can now remove all ailments easier. Then the next day, On says that she's being stalked, so we catch the guy, and he turns out to be an artist that just wanted to use On as a model for his next art piece. But more importantly, he's a pupil of Madarame, the same guy we heard about from Nakanohara. So now, with the exhibition tickets Yusuke gave us, we try to find dirt on Madarame, but we come up empty-handed. So the next day we just ask Yusuke if the rumors around Madarame are true, and of course he denies it all. But after fooling around with the meta-nav, we find Madarame's palace, where we learn that Madarame is stealing his pupil's works, and claiming it as his own. But before we steal his heart, we confront Yusuke one more time, to which we fail to get any information from. But Morgana did find this door, so good job, kitty. But we do know someone that can tell us about Madarame, that being Nakanohara. He tells us that he was once a pupil of Madarame, and that Madarame drove one of his students to take their own lives because of the plagiarism. And with that, we decide to steal his heart. In Madarame's palace, we get introduced to our first treasure demon, kinda like Golden Hands from Personas 3 and 4, but this time they have weaknesses. For example, with the Atom Ring I found in the bathroom, I can now have Morgana use nuclear attacks, which just so happen to be the treasure demon's weakness. I also find the first will seed of the palace before hitting this roadblock. And in order to unlock this door in the palace, we need to first unlock the door Morgana found in Madarame's shack right in front of him. So when we do that, we learn that Madarame is using that room to store his counterfeits. But with it open, me and Ryuji face the next mini-boss of the palace, Nu. Now Nu doesn't put up much of a fight, as I just lower its defense with Joker, and I use Ryuji to attack it with Headbutt. There's also the benefit of Ryuji's attack being raised anytime I heal him now. So after we defeat it, Morgana, An, and Yusuke all enter the metaverse. But because Yusuke's not a Persona user, we have to leave and bring him to safety. But on our way out, we run into Madarame's shadow. And after denying the fact that Madarame stole for so long, Yusuke awakens to his new persona and we face off against some enemies. Luckily, the Tengus we fight are weak to ice, attacks that Yusuke's persona specializes in, so after knocking them all down, I baton pass to Ryuji to headbutt the blacksmith. After that, I deal some additional damage with An and take out a Tengu with Joker, so I now have one less enemy to attack, and luckily everyone survives. Then Yusuke finishes off the Tengus and baton passes to Ryuji for another big hit on the blacksmith. Now with its defense lowered, the rest of the fight is pretty easy. Now with the pass to the treasure open, Yusuke agrees to join our team, who I use instead of An, mainly because Morgana is a better healer, and with Pyro Jack I already have fire coverage. Going back into the palace, we have another mini-boss fight with another group of Tengus. That was a little harder than the boss fights before, mainly because Ryuji and Yusuke both fall to a Magarula that Joker avoids. But other than that, I'm able to defeat it before it charges up another one. Now the real boss fight is with the Arahabaki guarding the third will seed. How I ended up winning was I gave Morgana the Ring of Lust, Joker the Atom Ring, and Yusuke the Breeze Ring, because Arahabaki is weak to both wind and nuclear attacks. And with 3 out of my 4 teammates constantly knocking him down, the fight became a lot easier. Well, that is until everyone but Joker gets knocked out, but then he misses a flash bomb, allowing me to attack him 2 more times. But then I get hit with a brain jack, but thanks to Dr. Maruki and his social link, Detox kicks in, and I hit him 2 more times for the win. Now with all 3 will seeds, I grab the Crystal of Vanity that allows one of my party members to nullify their weaknesses, which will be needed for Shadow Madarame. But now with that fight out of the way, I make a route to the treasure and send out the calling card, so now I can face probably the hardest battle in this entire game by far. In Madarame's first phase, he'll split up into 4 different paintings. His mouth can only be attacked with magic attacks, and his nose and eyes can only be damaged by physical attacks. Now that isn't hard on its own, but it's just the fact that Madarame will go for your party's weaknesses, and most of the times he would just knock one of my teammates down just to finish them off, causing me to restart the whole entire battle. So after hours of trying to beat him, I finally got off to a good run. My main problem was that I was focusing on his eyes and nose rather than his mouth, because even though his eyes are responsible for hitting my weaknesses, it's his mouth that dealt way more damage. So now with it out of the way, I just had to hope that he wouldn't go after my party's weaknesses as much. And for the most part, my team avoided his attacks. And I finally made it to phase 2. Now Madarame will summon elemental copies of himself that you can strike the weaknesses of and baton pass to deal extra damage. The only problem is that they can also strike your team's weaknesses as well. And after destroying the first wave of fakes, he sends out all ice ones that target Joker, who has Pyro Jack. Yeah, this death didn't really make me too happy. But after a short break where I re-evaluated my life choices, I came back to the Madarame fight, got through the first phase, got great RNG on the second phase, and finally with an attack boosted giant slice from Yusuke, Shadow Madarame was no more. Then after the fight he starts rambling about a person in a black mask, but I really didn't care, because I personally never want to see his old ass face again. Now during my free time I ate some burgers, played some puzzles, and started to face social link with with Kasumi. Yeah, nothing too crazy, but then on the 5th of June, Madarame confessed to his crimes and was taken into police custody. Then the following day, I start the Justice social link with this thing. And after that, I do some requests in mementos that if I talked about would just prolong this video even more. And plus, I never really had any trouble with the mementos mini bosses. As a matter of fact, it's at this point in the game everything gets way easier. Well, everything but hiding our identities as phantom thieves, because a certain high school student council president found out about us. You know, before the actual police and government officials, but I digress. So we make a deal with her. Actually, it's not a deal, it's just blackmail. But either way, she won't release our true identities as long as we take down a mafia boss. Pretty fair deal, am I right? I also learned out you can hang out with these two things for skill cards, so that's how I get Maruki. After that, we learned that the mafia boss's name is Kaneshiro. So now with that information, we enter the metaverse and find ourselves not being able to enter the palace, so Makoto decides she'll help out with that. And now that the Kaneshiro in real life wants money from us, we can now enter his bank in the metaverse, where of course Makoto awakens to her motorcycle. My favorite part of the persona is that it's actually meant to be a pope. I don't know, it's just kind of funny to me. Anyway, now time to fight a pack of Onis. Now the front one is weak to nuclear attacks, which is what Pope Johanna specialized in during her time as pope. So with Makoto and Yusuke, because I gave him the Atom Ring for the Madarame fight, I deal major damage to them before they fall. But more importantly, I realize how broken Ryuji is at shocking enemies for a technical hit. But then he faints as well, so I finish off the Oni and leave the palace. And now I have a new teammate to replace Kitty. Now, normally I would talk about the mini bosses of this palace before talking about the Kaneshiro fight, either due to exploiting the enemy's weakness or just using Ryuji to shock them for a fat technical hit. But yeah, the King Key fight was fairly straightforward and simple. Now let's talk about the Cerberus guarding the final will seed. So he starts off by downing my entire team, so I just auto battle so it can knock me out faster. And I'll just show you the rest. Even though he has two very common weaknesses, I can always count on Pyro to come in clutch. Also, the Crystal Gluttony can be turned into one of the best rings in the game, so with that, let's go fight Kaneshiro. Oh wait, after clearing Madarame's palace, you unlock the ability to itemize personas and turn them into skill cards, or rings, or whatever. That's how I gave Pyrojack Hama and Media. But now with Kaneshiro's palace cleared, I unlocked the fusion alarm, that when set off, I can power up fused personas. Normally that doesn't sound good in a challenge where you can only use one persona, but it also works on itemized personas as well. For example, I turned Slime into Matarunda instead of Tarunda, so all I need are blank cards, which I can buy off Jose for 15 flowers. But enough yapping, let's kick Kaneshiro's ass. Now, I'll admit, every major boss fight in this game took me 2 or more tries to beat, except Kaneshiro. He is by far the easiest boss in this game. He starts off in Piggytron, but Piggytron is more of a tank than anything, especially now that I have access to good buffs and debuffs. All I gotta do is guard during his VIP attack. Hell, you can even throw out a rare item to get some free damage on him. After that, he'll use Fear Gas, but thanks to a little birdie named Dr. Maruki, it rarely stays on Joker. After Piggytron is down, Kaneshiro will summon 2 bodyguards that can be inflicted with ailments, so you can baton pass and land critical hits on. And really the only thing you need to worry about is Kaneshiro's lullaby, but Again, Dr. Maruki. Then at the end of the fight, Kaneshiro will go for Make It Rain. That deals a bit of damage to my team, but he runs out of money so he can't do it again. Then his guards leave him, so now with one Showtime attack with Ryuji and Makoto, Shadow Kaneshiro goes down. I guess Atlas felt bad for the Madarame fight. After Kaneshiro's defeat, he yaps about a guy in a black mask, but then we leave, so now it's on to free time. I start off by maxing out the Chariot social link with Ryuji so he can awaken to his new persona. And speaking of social links, I start the Emperor social link with Yusuke, as well as I start the Hangman social link with the Goat, the Wheel of Fortune social link with Chihaya, and the Star social link with Hifumi. Then in Mementos, I turn the Crystal of Gluttony into the Ring of Gluttony and get the move Volt Guardian. It's just Ma Rakujo, but with a fancy new animation. Then on the 9th of July, Makoto tells us that Kaneshiro turned himself into the police, meaning another mission went successfully. Then a few more days pass, and an unknown number texts me telling me to change the heart of one Futaba Sakura. But the problem is, I have no idea who that is. But they do share the same family name as Sojiro. You know, the cranky old guy whose cafe I live in. So I ask him who she is, and yeah, it went as well as you thought. So now, what's the most logical conclusion to this dilemma? If you said breaking and entering, you'd be correct. But then Boss catches us and tells us that Futaba is his daughter that kept herself locked up in her room because she watched her mother kick the bucket right in front of her. So with that sob story out of the way, we decide to steal her heart to help out with her trauma. Now before we start this palace, I decided to stop talking about every mini-boss from this point on unless it actually gave me trouble. Mainly because as I'm writing this, I'm on page 30 of my notes with half of the game left to be covered. As well as I don't think you guys really care about my dastardly duels against a bunch of Sandman. By the way, Sandman kicks my fucking ass, but I digress. But since I'm still talking about certain mini-bosses, let's talk about Aliot. You know, the demon that guards Futaba's third will seed. Now, this mini-boss was hard for a couple different reasons. The first being that it uses ice attacks. You know, attacks that are weak to a certain pumpkin with a lantern. It also repels physical, so Yusuke is completely useless here, except for the fact that he has Volt Guardian so he stays in. So my whole plan was to Maka Jam with Makoto so it couldn't attack, and if that didn't land, I would just use Zionga and hope for a shock infliction, because not only could it not move, but then I could use Makoto to hit it with a nuclear attack for a technical hit. It's also weak to fire, so Joker was just used to spam Augie. Also, maybe I shouldn't call Yusuke useless, because his Showtime attack with Ryuji did deal a nice chunk of damage. He also did finish it off with a Fire Magatama for the final Will Seed, so I could then get the Crystal of Wrath. Now with a route to the treasure cleared, all we needed to do was to get Futaba to open the door to her room for us. And now it's time to fight her deceased mother as a flying cat monster. And no, I'm not talking about Morgana. The initial fight starts off with you not being able to deal enough damage to really do anything. That's because this is a scripted fight, so that Futaba can enter her palace to have a Persona 4 reference and awaken to her new persona. Then she'll manifest a ballista into the palace for one of your party members to use. So all you really need to do in this fight is deal enough damage to activate the cutscenes where you can either use the ballista or have Futaba damage the mom monster herself. I'll admit I do end up falling at the end of this battle thanks to an unlucky technical hit, but after running it back with one more scripted shot, Futaba's change of heart was successful. Then during my free time, I do some requests in Mementos where I get the skill card for Meteorama, as well as I fuse personas together to get Decorabia so that during the next fusion alarm I can get the skill card Agidine. Now as for social links, I max out the Faith Arcana with Kasumi, then I go on to start the Priestess social link with Makoto, as well as I finish the Death Arcana with Takemi, then Futaba wakes up from her coma or whatever, and stops Medjed from revealing our identities, because that was a plot point I forgot about. Now with Futaba on the team as navigator, I start the Hermit social link with her. Then after having a Yakuza 8 moment, we go back to Japan and realize our principal forgot how to cross the road. And also people really want us to steal the hearts of Okumura for whatever reason. Then we have a blackout for a couple of days, and when we come to, Haru, the daughter of Okumura, is now on the team. Luckily, no lackluster storyline that pushes a newly introduced character into the background happens during our blackout. Nope, none at all. Luckily, Haru awakens to her persona right before the first mini-boss of the palace. So now with her we have access to psychic attacks, which just so happen to be the mini-boss's weakness, so you know it's not really hard at all. After this, you have a series of mini-bosses that aren't hard, but the reason for them is to learn their weaknesses for the Okumura boss fight. Like for example, the small blue ones are weak to fire, the tall red ones are weak to electricity, and the fat green ones are weak to psychic. After this, a fusion alarm went off in the Velvet Room, so I use it to turn turn my Obras into the skill card Marakunda to lower the enemy's defense. I also made an Anzu for the skill card Garula to help out during the Okumura boss fight. Now, as for the boss that guards the third Will Seed, it's probably one of the easiest so far, mainly because Joker has skills like Meteorama and Marakunda, and Ryuji's Zionga always lands a shock, so I could follow it up with a technical. And with it gone, we now have the Crystal of Greed, and I can go on to face Okumura. But before I do, I realized that some of the good skill cards can only come from DLC personas, and at first I wasn't going to use them because it wouldn't be fair using something I paid for. That was until I realized I never paid for the DLC. On the Steam version of the game, as well as the Switch and Xbox versions, the DLC comes in the base game. As for PlayStation, it's free on the PSN store. So now with that knowledge, during the next Fusion Alarm, I made the skill card Maragidon with Orpheus Picaro. Now, did this make Okumura's boss fight easier? No. No, it did not. The Okumura boss fight starts off with small blue robots weak to fire and wind, so with 2 Maragidons, they're done for. For the next set of robots, they're weak to psychic and ice, but this isn't where it gets challenging. The next set of robots are weak to electric and nuclear attacks, and it's at this point Okumura will start using a move called Sacrifice Order. This will cause one of the robots to self-destruct, meaning the others will run away next turn, causing you to start the whole phase over again. The next phase is where I had my first roadblock. These next set of robots are weak to wind and bless attacks that I don't have. So I replace Yusuke with Morgana, and I still can't get it right. But that's when I realized instead of just using multi-target moves, I can just stack baton passes and then end on Haru and use triple down. The final set of robots are weak to psychic and curse attacks. So after failing this phase, I give Ryuji the Psy Ring and I give Morgana the Grudge Ring to use curse attacks. Now with 3 out of 4 of my teammates able to strike their weakness, I'm able to chain attacks, making sure to end on Haru so I can finish the combo with triple down. Finally, Okumura will send out 1 giant robot in a suit, so all you have to do here is defeat it within the time period you're given. Also, he has a move called Big Bang Challenge that I get unlucky with because his attack debuff ran out just in time for him to wipe out my entire team. Then he goes for it again, but I try to finish him off, but that idea sounded way better in my head, so after running it back, I finish off the giant robot. Okumura sends out a Haru bot to self-destruct, but with its attack lowered and everyone guarding, it really can't do much. So with 1 more Agidon, Okumura's shadow goes down, and he has a change of heart. Or not. Within the next couple of days, I complete the Emperor social link with Yusuke to unlock his new persona. Then in Mementos, I make the Concentrate skill card with Athena Picaro, which comes in handy when Kasumi and I fall into a mysterious palace. This is also where Kasumi awakens to her new persona, and we finally get to use her in a fight. The enemy is weak to bless attacks, magic that Kasumi specializes in, and a magic attack I have on Pyro because of the Okumura fight. Also, Kitty is here to heal us, but after that fight, we asked if she wants to join us as the Phantom Thieves, and she says no, which is fair. So I go back to doing social links, and I manage to max out the Lover's Arcana with On to unlock her new persona. Then on October 11th, everyone is happy at Disneyland. Yay, Disneyland! That is until Okumura suddenly collapses while giving a press statement about his actions. So we might have been responsible for the mental collapse of Okumura, but more importantly, this guy, this thing, this creature. Well, he started blackmailing us into stealing someone's heart, that being prosecutor Sai Nijima, aka Makoto's sister. So I mean, I can't really say no, but he did agree to come help us because he also has a persona as well. Very interesting. In Sai's palace, I make the skill cards for Heat Riser and Debilitate. Then I face Ball for the final Will Seed. And yeah, with my team of physical attackers and with a little help from the move Debilitate, Ball was a cakewalk. And I got myself the Crystal of Wrath to boost everyone's agility. Now let's talk about Joker's solo battles. The first 2 enemies use Miracle Punch and Rebellion to try to land critical hits, so they can go again. But with Heat Riser, I raise all my stats and continue to burn them to a crisp. Also, Futaba's healing me after almost every turn. Now, the Ragda were a lot harder as they repelled physical and blocked fire. So I had to exit the challenge, fuse a Belphegor, itemize it, and make Mabufala. Now with that move, I can actually hit them, and they were a piece of cake in terms of defeating them. Finally, I had to go face Thor, and yeah, his gimmick was simple. He would either charge or concentrate, then wait, then attack. So all you gotta do is guard before he attacks and you're golden. Now with his defeat, we had enough chips to unlock the path to Sai's treasure. Now as I wait to fight Shadow Sai, I start the Emperor's social link with Haru, and I finish the Counselor's social link with Maruki, the Moon social link with Mishima, and finally the Wheel of Fortune social link with Chihaya. Now it's time to strike a change of heart in Sai. The Sai boss battle starts off with you not being able to damage her because she'll leave you with 1 HP. It's not until you figure out she's cheating can you actually unlock her true form and fight her. Now her attack depends on what element the roulette ball rolls onto. For example, the ball rolled on nuclear attacks, so Shadow Sai will use them. But because of that, Sai will also take more damage from the opposing element. So if she's attacking with nuclear, psychic attacks will do more damage. Then she'll spin the roulette wheel again, and this time it will land on almighty attacks. So at this point it just becomes a normal boss battle until you knock her out. After you defeat her, the intro of the game plays and I'm captured by the police because it turns out Akechi betrayed me. Who would have thought? But after some metaverse shenanigans, I faked my passing and Sai helps me escape the jail. So me and my team can finally take down the one that started this whole thing, Shido. So before I take on Shido's palace, I max out my remaining social links, that being the Priestess social link with Makoto that unlocks her new persona, the Empress social link with Haru that unlocks her new persona, the Hangman social link with my goat, the Star social link with Hifumi, the Hermit social link with Futaba that unlocks her new persona, and finally the Hierophant social link with Sojuro. And that finishes up all my social links for this challenge. So now on to Shido's palace. Now Shido's palace is pretty simple. Beat 5 different bosses to get 5 different letters of recommendation. And if I'm being honest, each one of the bosses I fought wasn't that hard. Even the one guarding the 3rd will seed wasn't hard. But I know why you guys are watching. Yes, you guys. Hi guys. You guys are here for one fight in particular, and that's with Akechi. So let's get on with it already. Also, before this fight, I equipped Pyro with Spellmaster to reduce SP costs and Salvation to fully heal my party. So Akechi starts off by sending out a crazed Cerberus and Kukulin, who deal massive amounts of damage but are very easy to defeat thanks to Cerberus being weak to electric and ice attacks. Now onto Akechi, and after one debilitate, Ryuji, Yusuke, and Haru deal around 250 damage with each attack. And because Akechi has a hate boner, or love boner, I don't know. For Joker, he only targets him, and that is until he uses Megidolon. That really doesn't deal that much damage, but because with one Showtime attack from Ryuji, Akechi goes down. Or not, because he takes a page out of Gerard Way's book and says he's not okay, and to that I have to agree with him. So on to the second phase. I start this battle like all others, Debilitate followed by Vault Guardian, but now I have Gambler's Foresight to raise my agility. So yeah, this guy can't even touch me. Like, I'm being brutally honest, he only lands 2 attacks during this entire fight, one on Ryuji and one on Haru. Most of the time he's targeting Joker, and he just avoids them. I mean, it's no wonder why Akechi sacrificed himself after this battle. I would do that too if I had an embarrassing performance like that, but I digress. Now with Akechi out of the way, all that's left is Shido. But first, it's time for Pyrojack to learn his final move, because I'm now level 59, and I can finally fuse Black Rider. And now, during the next fusion alarm, I can itemize it to get the skill card Megidolon. Now, on to Shido. Shido's first form is probably his worst, as you can't use physical attacks on it. So after Vault Guardian, Gambler's Foresight, and Debilitate, I mainly wail on him with Joker and Haru because they have the strongest magic attack in my lineup. And after about 1/4 damage dealt to Shido, he changes forms again, so I can finally target him with physical attacks. So this phase goes by a lot faster. And as for his third phase, I just can't use Haru's gun attacks. But normal physical attacks will work. Also, he has a pretty powerful move with Pyramid Blast. I think. I don't know. Futaba blocked it for me. Then with one more Megaton raid, the first Shido battle is over. For the second fight, I'll be honest, it's pretty easy. That is until it's just Shido and Joker. That's because Shido has the strongest forms of all 4 elemental magic attacks, as well as a pretty strong physical attack. But that's not the hard part. The hard part is that Pyrojack is weak to both ice and wind attacks. Like, I understand the ice part, but my guy can't handle a gentle summer breeze. But anyway, all I had to do was learn his attack pattern and guard before he uses an ice or wind magic, all while debilitating, healing, concentrating, and attacking. Until Until with one more Megidolon dealt to Shido, he was done for. We steal his treasure, and after one unfunny Ryuji scene later, Shido has a change of heart and confesses to his crimes. But nobody cares, and they still support him as Prime Minister. So after asking Mr. Kitty Whiskers why no one cares, he says it's got to do with mementos. Also, I max out the Magician social link with him so I get his new persona as well. Then in the depths of mementos we find the Holy Grail, and when we try to fight it, it just keeps healing itself until we get transported out of mementos. Or so we thought, because actually mementos becomes reality. Then these two nerds become one bigger nerd, and Igor turns out to be the god of control. But at least I max out his social link. So now, in order to beat the god of control, I need to first beat the 4 archangels. Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel really don't put up much of a fight, but the final one, Michael, does. Michael, just like the other archangels, summon angels into the battle, but if you try to attack them, they'll fully heal up Michael, so you just don't attack them, and then we're good, right? Yeah, honestly, that's how I won. Well, that and Haru's one-shot gun move, so on to the Holy Grail, and the first thing you need to do is cut the wires that it has to heal itself. So I send Ryuji to go cut them because I need Yusuke for Vault Guardian, and I need Makoto to heal. Then once you do cut them, it takes way more damage than before, allowing me to quickly get onto the next stage of the fight, Yaldabaoth. Now the best way I can describe Yaldabaoth is to imagine a dollar store version of Nyx from Persona 3, but instead of tarot cards and Arcana, it's the 7 deadly sins, -3, so it's actually 4. The first is this gun of lust, that when hit by makes you not want to attack. Now you can attack the gun, but each sin repels 2 different attacks. The next is the Bell of Vanity, that makes you weak to everything, and it's not soon after the bell comes out that I destroy the gun. Then the worst one comes out, and that's the Sword of Gluttony. Not only does it double magic cost, but it also repels physical attacks. Then after I destroy the bell, the Book of Wrath comes out, but it really isn't as annoying as the other sins. It just makes the victim attack, and only attack for a period of time. But the book does repel ice, so there's that, but after you take them all down, he'll keep cycling through them, bringing them back to attack until he goes for Ray of Control, a 2-turn move I originally fall to in my first attempt. But in my second attempt, I make sure to debilitate and Vault Guardian before he attacks, and with one more Zeodyne from Ryuji, Yaldabaoth was done for. Or so I thought, because he blasted another laser straight away. But then I hear the voices of the masses calling for the Phantom Thieves, so I get back up and awaken Arsene into a new form, Satanael. And now with a single press of the X button, the God of Control goes down, and I fail the challenge, because if I remember correctly, Satanael isn't Pyro Jack. But there's still one more palace left, so I'll continue. But now with Yaldabaoth gone, Shido can go into trial, but in return, I gotta go to jail. That is until Akechi comes out and says he'll take my place, so that's cool I guess. So now it's January 1st, and everything is messed up, like Mr. Kitty Whiskers is now a weird looking twink, and the Sphinx lady is alive again, so I get into contact with the only normal guy I know, this thing. So me and him group up with Kasumi, to explore this new palace that randomly appeared. And believe it or not, Dr. Maruki is the ruler. Very surprising. But it turns out that Dr. Maruki took the place of Yaldabaoth when it fell. So now he wants to make a world without pain and suffering. Also, Kasumi has been acting as her deceased sister, and her name is actually Samire. And then you fight her. And then you fight her persona. And yeah, it's not really hard, especially after this happens. But after this, I can now face Maruki's palace. And during his palace exploration, I unlock the rest of the face social link with Samire. So after making a route to the treasure and fighting Fafnir for the final will seed, I get ready for the final showdown with Dr. Maruki by maxing out the face social link with Samire to unlock her new persona. Then I go around to hang out with my teammates one more time to unlock all their final forms of their personas, even Akechi, because he's completely broken now in this form. As for Dr. Maruki's boss fight, it's pretty simple to understand because it's just exactly what I did for Okumura's boss fight. I target Azathoth's hands with what they're weak to. One's weak to physical and elemental magic, one's weak to curse, and the other's weak to bless. That's why I kept Ryuji, but swapped out Haru and Yusuke for Samire and Akechi. I also gave Akechi Vault Guardian because damn is it a good move. So the goal was to debilitate, then Vault Guardian into attacking his hand's weakness so I could baton pass, ending on Joker to deal big combo damage thanks to Megidolon. After every turn, Maruki would just regenerate his hands, so rinse and repeat until all hands were down so I could attack Azathoth. Then when I finally took out his persona with one more hit, Maruki fell. Is what I would have said, but now it's time for me to fight him with Adam Kadmon. And yeah, this fight is pretty much spam your most powerful attack until he's defeated. But then he becomes one with Adam Kadmon. So all you need to do is survive a couple rounds, but then you find out his weakness is in the center of his head. So after doing some acrobatics, so with the single press of the X button, this fight, as well as every other fight, is completely over for good. Well, that is as long as you don't count the scripted fist fight scene. But after that fight, you get transported back into the real reality, where Joker's in jail and Akechi is no more. Then all your friends help you get out of jail, and when you do, it's time to go back home. You say goodbye to all your friends, except for Morgana because you adopt the lazy bum. But still, your journey's over, and you can finally get some rest. Now, if you couldn't tell, this was by far my longest scripted video, with the script going over 50 pages at this point, so I hope you can forgive me for not going into certain details about this game. But yeah, this video was fun, even though Persona 5 Royal is a long-ass game and I played it within the span of 2 weeks. And if you like JRPGs or content similar to this, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a fantastic day!